Everyone's talking about it. It may well be the biggest art theft in Canadian history, and it is the focus of tonight's NewsHour Insight. Here's Deb.
Chris, you've probably heard by now that the Canadian art community is reeling from the theft of 15 priceless works from the UBC Museum of Anthropology. All but one of them gold, and most of them the work of acclaimed artist Bill Reid. Tonight there are questions about the museum's security, and a substantial reward is on the table. And authorities are worried about one particularly chilling possibility. Darlene Heidemann begins our coverage.
Collectors say this is the Mona Lisa of the stolen Bill Reid pieces, an extraordinary gold box with an intricate eagle perched on top. In a press release, the Museum of Anthropology's director likens its theft to a kidnapping. Today, British Columbians are stunned, and politicians are weighing in on the rare art heist.
It's not just the theft of 12 pieces of art, it's theft of part of British Columbia's history, certainly part of the Haida history. And I think that it's something, we all want to do everything we can to try and make sure we recover those articles.
It's very significant. It's very sad. I mean, Bill Reid is probably, along with Emily Carr, one of the most iconic and recognizable artists in British Columbia. And when you get off the plane, you land at YVR, you see that magnificent Bill Reid sculpture. So the fact that some of his most important works have been stolen, I think is very sad, and it's despicable.
The works of art were created by one of BC's most influential First Nation artists. Fears that his precious gold Haida art could be melted down has prompted UBC to today offer a $50,000 reward. As precious metal, the items are worth about $15,000. But as art, the Bill Reid pieces are worth a whopping $2 million.
We want those items returned as much as anybody else want them returned.
Pawn shops and police forces across Canada have been notified, and the investigation today spreads far beyond that. Interpol and its almost 200 worldwide member police forces were today pulled into the search.
We have reached out to law enforcement agencies across Canada to make them aware of this theft. We've also been in contact with Interpol.
So is this weekend's robbery the biggest art heist ever in Canada? Officials say they're so rare here it's hard to say for sure. The RCMP says though there's been thefts at smaller galleries, they're not aware of any other Canadian museum robberies of this magnitude.
And of course, a theft like this does raise inevitable questions. Is the museum's security good enough to protect artifacts that are national treasures? And if the security is good enough, was it working at the time? Ted Chernecki has that part of the story.
It's hard to imagine how the thief or thieves cut through this lower window of door number 7 on the north side of the museum without anyone knowing. There are 2 video cameras trained on this area. There are motion sensors. And even the short walk to the Bill Reid display has cameras there too. Even the sound of breaking glass on the middle display, now boarded up, should have resulted in near instantaneous alarms. But sources tell Global News the staff did not discover the break-in until just before opening Saturday morning.
You should know immediately. I mean, we have blink technology here where we're monitoring. We know an alarm's gone off within 1 second, so it's almost instantaneous.
Provident Security protects art and artifacts, but almost exclusively for private collectors.
When the person walks by, the system puts a red box around them, and that creates an alarm, whereas when those vehicles moving, the system's been programmed to ignore that.
Video cameras can be programmed to detect very specific unusual movements and send an alarm via telephone and radio. Breaking glass is easily detected.
The physical security of having laminated glass, it'll break like a windshield, not just shatter. And then there's acoustic detection inside of a glass break sensor installed in the ceiling. And so what that does is it just sits there and it's waiting for the sound of the breaking glass.
In a secure gallery, virtually every painting is either hardwired or wirelessly connected directly to the security system.
So there's the alarm going off. We've got it going with the siren right now, but it's as simple as just a little magnet here with a tamper-proof transmitter into the wall.
Even if an artifact cannot be hardwired, zones can be set up around it, monitored by multiple cameras.
And through programming, we would say, okay, well, within 18 inches, we don't want anyone to be there. So we draw a few lines around the piece. Right. If you get closer and actually touch the device or get close enough to touch it, that's a whole different level. That creates an alarm. It can immediately, within a couple seconds, have that on every black, every security employee, every every person in a facility.
So with all that technology, how could the UBC break-in have occurred? The museum is undergoing a major renovation, and the most obvious question is, was the security system even turned on? It's a question, like all other questions about the investigation, the museum refuses to answer.
If you've got any information, you are asked to call the RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Chris, that's tonight's Insight.
All right, Deb, thanks very much.